Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Syelo Tank. Today, we're really excited to have Tally Rappaport, CEO of Pot in the Tank. Tally has actually a pretty incredible background just in general. Before Pot, before co-founding Pot, which was seems like 5 years ago, she was the VP of product at Lyft, and then before that, Groupon, and then before that, a co-founder and CEO of another really cool company, which I believe she may have exited, if I'm not mistaken, to Groupon. So Tally's very clearly an operator. She very clearly understands what it means to build teams from the ground up. And with that, she created a product called Puck. Puck is really cool. I would call it, personally, I would call it like a candidate experience tool. But I'm not here to do the pitch, and I'm not here to dive into my perspective. Without further ado, I will hand the reins off on over to you, Tally. Excited to have you in the tank. Excited to learn about Puck. And yeah, without further ado, Tally Rappaport, everybody.
Thanks so much, Amir, for that great introduction, and excited to get a chance to speak with all of you today. Before I kick this off, I'll just and start sharing about Puck, I'll just say personally, I feel like I've been working with recruiting tech for almost a decade, because while I was at Lyft, we onboarded almost 1 million drivers, and so we were really thinking about how do people connect with work in new ways, and so had a chance to, with my team, work on some of these problems there, and then fell in love with the recruiting tech space, and now 5 years later, getting a chance to talk to all of you. So very excited to be here. Thanks a lot, Amir. And without any delay, I will dive right in. So I'm going to I'll dive into a presentation, but I'm going to share one idea first. There's a few ideas behind Puck, and one of them is that people join teams and join people, not just job descriptions. We all think about our last experience looking for work, or the folks we talk to, how often the people that are part of the team move the needle is really important. And I took that from this time working on recruiting, because I think it's true at all spectrums of work. And so I'll share more about Puck. So I'm going to share my screen, and let me give an introduction. So one of the ideas we think is that your employer and brand is your people. It's that team, and it really matters. And so what Puck does is we recognize that today job descriptions and the technology we use to recruit sort of removes the people behind the team, and we bring that back. The core problem we look at is candidate attraction and engagement. Like Amir said, Amir, thanks for the introduction. So you help build relationships and build trust with candidates by talking about what matters, including surfacing the people on your team. That's one of the big ideas. And so Puck is both the content production as well as career sites and a CRM that lets you distribute that content and get those people in front of people that you're reaching out to, and that are learning more about your roles. I think we solve helping companies attract quality candidates, seeing sort of up to 20% higher quality candidates. People fill roles 35% faster and save 2 hours a week by using the Puck suite. Although I should say, on this first one on attracting quality candidates, we're very excited to have just shared a case study, our most recent case study with Skims, one of our customers, that actually hired 83% more inbound candidates right after going live with Puck. So, there are some great numbers here. So we know most of our customers are looking at these options. I assume today a lot of the companies here are kind of in this zone where they're spending on a lot of third-party destinations. And what Puck does is we put your people first. So we help you create content and then distribute it on different surface areas. And I switch to a live demo in a moment, but I wanted to give that orientation first. So with that, we take the assets that look like a job description and transform them across job pages, interview guides, social videos to have that personal component. And these are some live examples. So I'm going to take this idea of a talent CRM plus kind of a recruitment marketing agency and quick and easy content and show you something live. So this is one of our customers, Time Care, and I will click on one of their open roles. I'll go down to this, this data science role. And now you're seeing the career side of Puck. So there's a great job description on the left that talks about a data science that's going to have strong analytic capabilities and will do modeling as you would expect of a data science. But then right next to it, the VP of data science is talking about what data science is like at Time Care. So we have a producer that we sign to our customer, and that producer schedules interviews, records, and produces these little podcasts with your team. And the nice thing about this content format is we find whereas it's very inclusive, whereas we find that video is slow to produce and there are a lot of folks that will hesitate. We are able to get almost everyone to be up to participate in sharing some of their story. And so we're able to create content that is really relevant. So you're surfacing your team and making the job description, have a face, attach a face and a person to it. And you're also giving really relevant content about the role to help move that candidate forward in their journey of learning more about your company. This is mapped by role, I should say. We integrate with, this is Greenhouse, but we integrate with all the major ATSs. And so this VP of data science shows up because I'm on a data science job description at this point. And if I switch to something else, then you'll see a different set of folks. But the co-founder and chief medical officer, Bobby, as an example, shows up on all the roles because there are some people when they're talking to high-level mission that's relevant, everyone kind of rolls up to a common mission in an organization. So this is one place that the content lives, but what we do is give you a few other places to use it. So there's also interview guides. Here's an interview guide where you can see content is repurposed here. We know that helping candidates at this moment while they're prepping for an interview or they're preparing for that journey are really, really engaged and leaning forward. They want to do well. And so we see super high engagement for our customers. Over half of their hires will engage with the content before getting hired. So we're not touching a sliver, 5-10%. We're touching the majority of people that join the team through content placed here. One of the nice things about interview guides as a use case and our format is it can be a lot of work as a recruiting team to set up and write all of this, but the interview format helps us get some of the information you want from the hiring team and helps the hiring team lean forward and participate in the process. And you also have a chance to take questions that are asked by every candidate and get them answered up front and save a lot of time in the process. This same content, I'll show two last places that we can use it in different formats. We do make these short form, one, you can embed it. So Avalara, one of our customers, has it on their career site. Or you can also post it. So this is a Skims post and what we call teasers. So we take 30-second versions of the content and let it be used in the social context, which is often really, really engaging. One, social networks like video these days. And so we giving them a video asset, you get a boost in visibility, but also you have a chance to kind of get a short form snippet. So we create these from those same interviews. Yes, good question, Brett. So Brett asks, does Puck become the career site? Yes, we are the layer on top of the ATS. And so we do become the career site for the company then. We are not often this page. So this page was created before Puck as an example. But we are the page where the jobs are hosted. And so we're replacing what, for I imagine a few of you, is a greenhouse or a lever page today. The last thing I want to do is share a CRM demo, and then I know that I'm supposed to stop in 4 minutes. I think I'm supposed to have 20 minutes, so I'll make this one quick on the CRM side. So we're the only solution that combines the content, the career site, and the CRM. And with where things are in the market, we know that there's a lot of folks coming inbound, and so raising the quality of inbound and saving time is really important. But there are still roles where there is an outbound component, and so I want to give a preview of the CRM of our latest here. So this is anonymized. Now you're off in anonymous land because you're seeing people, a group of people in a talent pool, and then you have a chance to do keyword searches. So this is searching for forensics engineers. You can search by years of experience. You can search by the location. So we'll do something in Chicago, 20 miles of a certain location, kind of narrowing down my pool. And then lastly, we'll add some tags. These tags are manually created. We don't use AI to tag candidates today. So now I have down to a reasonable list. I'll remove a few people from the list. And I will then enroll them in a sequence. So I'm going to enroll these folks in a sequence. And now you get to see the special sauce, which is that the teasers, we can strip audio out of the teasers. And now they become images. And as images, you can embed them in emails, and they have a big impact on response rate. Folks see a double-digit higher response rate when teasers are included, and you have a chance to hear from the team, and the ability to just stand out without it being a video file, which is so large that a lot of email clients will mark it as spam. And so our kind of content format with this audiogram lends itself well to this email outreach. So that's one of the little secrets about our content, is it's built with like the CRM distribution in mind. And then from here, you can review your sequence, send it out, and then get responses. So I will pause there because I'm at, I see one more question. Yes, that's right. Puck search is, we are integrating with Greenhouse in this example. That's exactly right. So you're in essence searching candidates that are inside your ATS. So Puck connects the career site plus the CRM. And the reason we do that, and I'll explain that, and this is an example. Now you roll forward and people are starting to reply to this. There's one last idea here that I want to share, and then I'll pause. We don't believe, when you are in that outbound situation where you're trying to engage people, we don't believe that you just walk up to someone digitally, digitally stroll up to someone on the internet, suggest a new role, and have them go like, what a great idea. I'm immediately going to drop what I'm doing. I'm succeeding in my role, but I'm going to drop what I'm doing and change over immediately. We recognize that there is a warming up process. And because of that, we track the engagement with people over time. We track their engagement through the funnel, and we also track their engagement with the career site content. And that means that we have an advantage in surfacing candidates that are interested, because we are having a more complete view of candidates' engagement with your employer, not just in the messages you're sending, but also in the collateral that you're sharing publicly. I am at my time for my demo, so I'm going to stop sharing here. But I guess this is the moment where I turn it over to you guys and answer questions. I see Brett has
Yeah, Brett, feel
has
free
popped in.
to,
Yeah,
feel free to
dive
go
in.
off mute, Brett. Jump on in so that
Yeah.
we can hear the awesome questions.
Oh, Brett, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm muted. Thank you. I'm not trying to monopolize the conversation, but just it's interesting.
No, please.
It seems like
Go.
Puck is playing in a couple of different spaces. Like at one point it's sort of about the reviews, then all of a sudden it's an overlay that allows you to search through your ATS. I imagine that's somewhat limiting depending on the API access and what ATS you're using. But then it's also kind of handling some of the marketing and outreach part, which is
Yeah.
interesting. Can you talk a little bit more about sort of the drip feed marketing capabilities and whether it's, how much detail it could go into or
Yeah.
what channels it uses and so on and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. I can, and I'll answer the question that you didn't ask is why does Puck do these types of things, these different sequence of things? And I'll say it's because we want to help companies tell their story. And so we want to be in all of the candidate facing places where you're doing that. We are basically creating content for you that has that tells the team story, and then we're helping you distribute it on the career site and in the CRM. So that's kind of Puck's common connection. So yes, I'll talk about the sequence capability. We, at that point, for CRM, we call them seats, but for our CRM seats, we would integrate with your email provider, Gmail and Outlook, and then the emails are going out as if they're from you. They're whoever's doing the outreach. And the important thing is that if someone replies, then the campaign stops, right? Because you don't want to drip out something to someone in an automated way when you're really at that point ready to have a one-on-one conversation. So today we're in email, and then we give you all the assets to post on social media, but we don't post on your behalf. We build you a content library. Most companies get plenty of content to post whatever campaigns they're interested in, but we're not kind of connecting to your accounts to do that social posting. I'll mention two other channels. Our content is formatted to be distributed on LinkedIn. So we know LinkedIn Recruiter is important for a lot of recruiters, important channel. And so our content has the metadata for LinkedIn to understand it, recognize it as content, present it as unfurls in outreach messages. But of course, LinkedIn wants you to be in LinkedIn when you send those messages. And yeah, those are a few of the places that content is distributed today. Does that answer your question, Brett?
Yeah, it does. Does it have any sort of A/B testing ability? Because I imagine when you're pumping out content, you want a way to understand what content is resonating, be it maybe size, length, voice, tonality, all those sort of things. Does it have any of those features, or is it kind of the basic sort of drip feed, wait a certain amount of time and continue messaging if they don't respond back?
Yeah, good question. We haven't built A/B testing today. One of the things that it's on our roadmap. One of the things we're working on is figuring out how to do statistical significance, because so many of the campaigns that we see people sending out are so small they would never be significant. So we're working on that, maybe giving you a view at your content at a broader level across the organization. This is what messaging helps. So we're gonna keep working on it and share it when we have something great.
Thank you.
I have one quick question. In terms of the search functionality, I saw that you could look from a specific range from a particular area. Is there a way to list specific cities or states opposed to a
Yes.
radius?
Yes, absolutely. The reason I included the radius is only if you put in a state, then the radius doesn't make sense, right? Because you're like, who draws a circle around a square? Or I guess a lot of states are rectangles and triangles, but so I use the zip code just to put in the radius example, but absolutely instead you can put a state or a group of cities.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for for the demo. And in the demo, you pulled from existing like applicants that were in our ATS. So is there a way to also create projects when sourcing with external
Yes.
people?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. You're welcome, or I'm happy to be here, Lauren.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah. Like, you say thank you to a thank you. Thank you for the question. So the short answer is yes. You know, what we aren't is we aren't a database of people in the external world. That's not the space that Puck plays in. But we do have people is very common to source people that aren't already in your ATS. And we have a Chrome extension so that to make that easy, so you don't have to manually create them. That's something that we're actually releasing I want to say in a couple of weeks, but it's like very a few weeks. So our Chrome extension makes it so that you don't have to manually copy information over, and you can pull in from LinkedIn to start, whereas most of our customers are doing that today. We are looking at some other social tools I'll mention, because that is where some of our customers are increasingly finding people. And so I expect to have more options beyond LinkedIn for the Chrome extension in the future. Does that answer your question, Lauren?
Yeah, I was just wondering if I could like build a project similarly, like I use Gem, for instance. So if I were to, you know, build out a project and throw those people into a sequence, would it have a similar functionality or only work
Yes.
ATS? Okay,
Yes, absolutely. It would have a similar functionality.
cool. And any sneak peek on the different social channels that you were talking about outside of LinkedIn?
Yes, I will say that we've had a lot of demand. The sneak peek is we've had a lot of demand for Instagram. So we're like scratching our head on Instagram.
Cool.
Yeah. We had a few customers that do a lot of their candidate sourcing off Instagram for different reasons.
Okay.
Hey, I'd love
Go-
to jump in.
Go, Jenny.
Tally.
Go, Jenny. Oh, you guys know each other. All right, there we go. Awesome.
Yes, I know. So hi, Syelo community. I started working with Tally, fall of 2020, when Puck was just getting started. And I was working with CoderPad, and I think we were a beta customer. Using their early Puck product, and then had monthly meetings with Tally to give product feedback over the course of like 2 years, I believe. Yeah,
True
so this
story.
is so exciting. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, Jenny gives great feedback.
Thank you. So yeah, this is so exciting to see the evolution of Puck. It's continued to grow, releasing great new product features. One of the product features, I'm not sure how long it's been there, but inside the sequencing, embedding the content and being able to strip out the video, and yeah, that's amazing. And I am curious if you have the data on what you've seen the increase in response rate without that content versus now having the content.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for saying hi, Jenny. It's great to see you in another space, in a different context. We love working with Jenny. So okay, so I'll answer the question and then I will give you like a meta answer. So the meta answer is we are seeing companies consistently get double-digit uplifts in like absolute response rate from the content, and it can be really significant. The reason I'm not giving you like a 15, 20, 35, like I'm not giving a number, is because just like I shared with candidate quality, 83% is what's on our Skims case study. And yet, we're quoting 20% as a more conservative average. We're working on what's the right way to surface a number when there's clearly variability. And some of the biggest driver of the variability is who's in the clip. that folks are reaching out with. And so, you know, there are roles that engineering, as an example, where often you're repeatedly sourcing for engineering, and so the clips are great because you'll make a great engineering clip. And then there's some roles where there's one-off sourcing or the clip is less relevant, you know, and so the uplift is there, but less significant. And so I think we're always seeing double digits, and I will have like a stake in the ground with an actual number to put on it soon. But what's interesting is it's enough. It compounds the time savings on outreach because people are needing to source less candidates because the people who are replying seem to be higher quality. They're kind of it's working both ways.
Yeah, and definitely one of the things that I'd like to add too, which the people on this call who have used something like GEM or other sequencing tools, to be able to see the data of what candidates click on and leveraging that data and follow-ups is highly significant. So how that might play out is you send a sequence to candidates and candidate clicks on, you know, it 10 times, you know, 15 times, like clearly they're engaged. They're watching these videos. You can see Puck tracks how long a candidate is watching the video or listening to or reading the content. And therefore, you as a recruiter can be more proactive in a direct message. So like maybe you remove that candidate from the sequence and you send something like, you know, you're clearly interested. You want to hop on a call? Like, here's my phone number. Like, I'm available. Let's chat. And it's surprising how people are just like waiting for that direct outreach.
Thanks, Jenny. Yeah, I that's a great point, and and it tied to exactly the sort of mindset of, okay, what's the benefit of having these systems integrated? There is a big benefit in having engagement tracking as part of your CRM. You don't want to just track that someone clicked off to the job page. You then want to track how long did they spend on it. You know, was that a click that bounced, or was it a click where the person spent 5 minutes reading or listening to content? Those are really different signals from a candidate. And so we do share all that time spent data. I didn't in this demo, but you can sort by it. I wanted to hold myself to the 20 minutes, but you can sort by that engagement data, and it really it does help you prioritize in a super meaningful way. Thanks, Jenny. I see one more question from Brett. I don't know if I missed this from earlier. Was there a follow-up in there, Brett, that I missed?
Yeah, I think the only follow-up that I put is that if you're going down the sourcing path, like it sounds like you will, bringing in candidates or potentials that aren't in the platform, are you also thinking about email discovery and email enrichment, validation, or any other features that help increase deliverability, reduce bounce backs, and think about that in the overall campaign, especially if you're sending through our local emails. That could be an issue if the score starts dropping and everything goes to spam.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you asked this because I should have clarified it in my answer to Lauren. We are actually going to do the enrichment side as part of the Chrome extension that we're launching. So that part will be included. And so we will be enriching those emails. We're working on validation and we have some things on deliverability. I think there is more investment and opportunity. Here's what I'd say. I think there's more opportunity to be a real best of breed solution from deliverability because we are also the career site and can paint a picture of an email that's maybe not really cold. But we have to do more work to tell that story over the email network. But we think there is opportunity to do some really interesting things on email over time beyond just the more standardized enrichment, which I know of there's plenty of places you can enrich.
Makes sense.
Thanks.
I'd love to
Great
jump
question.
into my favorite question, and one that we haven't dove into yet, around cost. How much
Yeah.
does it cost? How does this work?
Yeah.
To hear
Yeah.
a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course. I do have a slide for Syelo Tank on a Syelo Tank deal, but I will give a quick answer on cost. So we have one pricing structure that is flat CRM seats. It's $3,600 a year for CRM seat, and that's, you know, for all of the sort of second part of the demo. And then on the career site, we're tiered based on the size of the company. And so we do a model where, you know, smaller companies have lower pricing, and larger companies, the pricing increases. What I will say we don't charge by, and this is really interesting, we don't charge per content. We do not charge you per piece of content created. And I should see eyebrows going up. I saw one set of eyebrows going up. Thank you. We do that because we want to be aligned with our team's success. We want you to have as much impact from the platform as possible. And so we don't cap that content. And that means that, you know, we check in and folks create new content at least every 6 months, most of the time. Very, very few instances, because we know that your recruiting worlds are always changing. And so our goal is to keep up in that sense. And so it means that you're, you know, continuing to evolve the story as you have different priorities, or there's other teams that become important. We're able to keep up with those needs.
Amazing. And then I guess as a follow-up, when you're thinking about who in the space you see as a competitor, or someone in the space that you think maybe even not a direct competitor, but is living in the same ecosystem as yours,
Yeah.
would you flag? Like, is there that you're trying to take away from? Or would you introduce this as like a completely new type of solution?
Yeah, great question. So so as a career site plus CRM, I think there's one other company that does that combination, which is Phenom. They're much more sort of Fortune 500, sort of enterprise, whereas we serve you know, mid-size and growing and large companies, but we certainly serve mid-sized companies as well. I think the other difference, the other sort of space, is there's a lot of point solutions in the CRM where they just do the CRM. I think Lauren mentioned one earlier. And so we're also an alternative to just the point solution on the CRM. And there are CRM customers, I mean, getting started with Puck, people are getting started. They start out with a few CRM seats, and then they add the career site over time. So I do think that is a way that people get started, but I think the combination is pretty powerful. And the analogy we use is like, you know, sort of HubSpot in some ways, where by having both sales and marketing in one place, it's very helpful for its customers. We find the same thing for ours.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
In the last couple of minutes that we have, Tally, before we flip it on over and Tally can ask us or throw any questions towards the community, any last questions for Tally or for Puck? No? All right. Feel free, if you do, to jump in at any point. But Tally, at this point of the conversation is when we really flip it around, and if there's interest in asking anyone in this room anything, we can collectively give feedback or provide thoughts, etc. And if there's none, totally respect that too. But yeah, this is usually flipped around, and we're happy to answer any questions for you.
Great. Yeah, I'm excited to get a chance to flip it around. I I don't get to do that as much. So this is fun for me. Thank you, Amir, for the opportunity. I guess one thing I'd be interested in, I showed the different pieces, I think 3, sort of content, career site, and CRM. Would love to hear in today's market, what's most interesting to people and why, if they wouldn't mind sharing.
I guess I can only speak for myself, but I will say I think honestly the career site and the CRM functionality I would say are pretty equally important. You touched on something I think a lot of us are facing with a large amount of incoming candidates, and a lot of them aren't necessarily the best fit for the role. And so up-leveling your career site to help filter out some of those candidates and really get the ones that are better fit is pretty critically important. And then the flip side of that is obviously passive sourcing for targeting candidates that are definitely a fit for the role, which the CRM helps with. So both of those areas are pretty important. And I apologize because I missed the question section, but I also noticed that you list interview guides as part of the tool as well. I know that's something that I find really helpful. Is that something that the product also builds?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll answer that and then ask another one. Yes, we do. We build interview guides, and the 2 things that are nice about the interview guides, one is because they're hosted by Puck and we integrate with your ATS, we're able to give you feedback on who's engaging and to track performance. So this we can say definitively, the people that engage with the Puck interview guides are 3 times more likely to get hired. So yeah, it's pretty impressive. We can track their performance to the funnel versus not folks that don't engage. So so there's a good connection to this whole kind of data ecosystem. So that's one advantage of the Puck interview guides. And then the other advantage is actually it's the content creation. Because our audio is an easy way to create content, and frankly, we're doing some of the lifting for you, we can ask the hiring managers some questions that you want to include in an interview guide, and that you can then leverage versus that all of the content creation being on the recruiting team. And so our content production, because it's, in that way, the recruiting team is more of an approver, for lack of a better word, than the creator. We're sort of saving time for people that want to create interview guides. Does that answer your questions, James?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
To answer your question, Tali, about what part of the product is most interesting or could be impactful, a hard question because it is an entire holistic platform that all connects for a strong reason. But I think what also makes Puck unique compared to other products that play in this space, and one of them we've talked about is Gem. So sure, you can use Gem on the sequencing side, is really the power of the content up front. As a recruiter, one of the first questions recruiters typically ask candidates when they get on the phone is, are you familiar with X company? So, say I work for Puck, are you familiar with Puck? Most commonly, if you're working at a startup, up and coming mid-sized company, the candidate is not familiar with the company. And so the answer is no. And then you spend the time talking about the company and the team and the role and giving some information to a candidate up front in terms of before that phone screen, like the content pieces, is so valuable because you have a more productive, useful conversation, and the candidate feels that much more equipped to become. Can you still hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Becoming familiar with advance, and also the way that the content is produced, because a lot of times companies might create an engineering specific page.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. You can read a lot, but the way that the I don't know, our generation today best receives content is through these small snippets.
Yeah.
Podcasts.
Yeah. Great. That's super helpful. Thank you, Jenny. I wanted to to ask one more question. I was curious for you all that have a CRM solution today, if anyone wouldn't mind sharing, how did you find it? And what was that process like of starting to work with it, if you can remember? I saw some faces thinking to the past.
Just so for me personally,
Yeah.
about CRM, we're not referring to ATSs, right? We're referring to like the gem.
Yeah, the gems of the world. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. I was curious, like, how did you guys first get introduced to that product, and how did you sort of think about what made it great?
Gem, I feel like, just for me personally, I've used Gem in the past. They just dominated the conversations in the technosphere, where
Yeah.
I heard about them so much, from social, from fundraising through Y Combinator, that they were just top of mind. Internally here at Syelo, we use a product called Synovio for our outbound and for our CRM. And I believe Sabrina was the decision maker on that product, but I believe it was just through Googling and searching for what could fit for us in this model. But that's just us explicitly.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Also, some ATSs have that, like, that's where I've used a lot of past CRM or outbound. Ashby has integrated.
That sounds great. Jordan, I saw you go off mute, so I have to ask if there was something there. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to contribute there. I worked at a few different startups, but you know, we were working with a company that got acquired by Gem. They were basically doing the same thing. I forgot the name of it. I hadn't heard of it until I joined a Series A startup that was like 2 months removed from stealth, and one of the recruiters I work with was like, "Oh, you got to try this tool," and I had never heard of it before. So it sort of just became this word of mouth thing, and then I was at first apprehensive, then grew to love it, and then started being an advocate every company I went since then, to using it, just because it's easy. But one thing I actually was curious about, to your earlier question, but I'm going to leave my opinions out of this, but we are a Workday shop, which can present some challenges, and I'm just curious if you've had experience with clients that are very Workday heavy in that ecosystem.
Yes, we are doing it right now.
Awesome.
What I would say is, like, Workday has great information in the database. I don't know if that's your experience, Jordan, but that's what
I am a huge Greenhouse fan historically. Like, I've done full Greenhouse implementation, but joined a larger company that's more Workday heavy. So.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I'll say, I mean, we have a great integration with Greenhouse, and they were one of our first ATS partners. But we do now have companies that are on Workday, and I can say that for larger companies, there's a lot of customization, but Workday doesn't have anything resembling a CRM, and its search is quite nascent, and so I think the opportunity. I see a lot of jokes here.
Plenty of them. I'm right there with you.
I won't put those out because I don't know where the recording's distributed, but I'll just say there's a lot of opportunity when we work with Workday customers on the search side. And I think it's actually an interesting moment. James mentioned this, like the labor market. We could have a whole nother conversation over, beer about the labor market, but because people are getting a lot of applicants at the moment, it is helpful to search and sort and filter them, maybe more so than when you weren't getting the applicants, right? Because then there wasn't anyone in those databases, but right now there's a lot of folks. There's opportunity there to benefit from improved search.
Fantastic. Yeah, we do use Gem a little bit right now. I would say a little bit. We do have accounts, so it does integrate, but our career page needs a lot of work. It's like the Workday version. There's always integration issues with our other platforms, so there's always like things we're trying to figure out. So, but I appreciate the context.
Yeah. Avalara actually uses iCIMS, which is similar to Workday, and it's like everything is a choice, and it's full customization, which has pros and cons for sure. Any other? Oh, I had one more question, if you wouldn't mind sharing. What is on your agendas right now? You know, I know Syelo Tank is an opportunity as a sort of brain trust to learn about new things. Is there anything that you all are actively trying to learn more about, either with an eye to, I want to try and add this to my recruiting tool stack, or just like this feels like a conversation that this community is having, and you want to sort of educate, you know, get educated on it. So what are you all in the learning zone about?
This is a little bit off topic, but I think it's actually interesting, the CRM conversation, because I guess like as recruiters, you don't necessarily think about like outreach in the CRM style. Like I didn't really like hear the term CRM until I went over to the dark side for a little bit on the sales side. But like as a recruiter, it's just outbound, or it's like, you know, outreach or sourcing. And like for a long time, you either used your ATS functionality for that, or you use LinkedIn for that. So I think the term, like I think CRM as a new thing, I think it's fantastic, and we should have been doing this the whole time, starting campaigns, being proactive, like drip campaigns, things like that for recruiting, because it's essentially sales. I feel like that's kind of a newer concept that sprouted like the last few years. Like that wasn't necessarily like a thing that a lot of recruiters did. So I think like I don't know, for the future of recruiting, I think the CRM conversation is a good conversation. Like that's what I think people need to learn about, and like how it integrates with, you know, all of your ATS, like how it integrates with social media, things like that. I think that tool is fantastic. But like personally, I think I think CRM needs to be involved in all type of recruiting. Like recruiting marketing should be a function all on its own.
Right.
Sometimes it is, which is great, but yeah, I think it's a newer concept for a lot of recruiters. I know it was for me. So like that would be something I'd be like, I'm excited that we're chatting with y'all today.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Sabrina.
Sabrina, you bring up a good point, because I was thinking about that too. It's like, yes, how long did I use CRM? But I realized back in the day when I was an agency recruiter, you know, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I worked at an agency that did use CRM. It was more MailChimp heavy, just to do some drip campaigns, because LinkedIn Recruiter only got us so far. But I have to imagine we were in like the 0.01% of agencies that actually use that. And if we think about a lot of folks in their journey from moving, especially to internal recruiting, if they came from agency, they weren't using CRM. So at some point, right, probably had to adapt it internally. So it's sort of an interesting journey.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Thanks for sharing, Jordan.
I think a conversation that I've been having with hiring managers lately is candidates' motivation. And it kind of ties back to your very like beginning point of just the quality of candidate, the brand alignment, mission, values alignment, all of those things, and how they relate to a top performer as they then become an employee and continue on with us. And that's an area that's been a challenge to really pinpoint, like, who is that person? Because we're reading them at face value. And then once you get on the phone, you're sort of uncovering those pieces. And so that very, like those beginning slides, like if you were to just like stick to that, like how do we layer that in? I feel like the CRM piece, the sourcing piece, like all of those things almost need to be in place to sell Puck as a package, and to sort of meet recruiters where they're at, and like make sense to sell it to an organization. But like that very beginning main mission, the quality of the candidate, like that's the really special piece that I think I resonate with most, and that I talk to my teams the most about.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. Lauren, can I ask one quick follow-up to make sure I've like read between the lines or listened between the lines there? When you talk to your hiring teams about that, what is that conversation? Is it how do we increase the quality of candidate, or what's that conversation you're having?
I think what I've been finding, and this is what prompted these conversations, is that when I am asking a candidate, like, hey, like, how much do you know about our company? Like, I work at Masterclass, like, what's your baseline knowledge? And maybe someone doesn't know anything. And then the conversation is maybe motivated around a visa or a logistical thing. Like, my company is going back into the office and I want to be fully remote, and your job is. And so like the beginning of a conversation becomes a bit more about logistics and less around our mission and our values alignment. Like, I can't scan a resume for that until we get on the phone, and then we actually have that conversation. So when you're speaking to, oh, how did they engage? Like, how many times did they listen to this video or click on this thing? Like, that would show me maybe upfront that they have a bit
Yeah.
of that alignment with us.
Yeah. Got it. So you're trying to figure out, the conversation with hiring managers is like, how do we get people that are really excited about what we're doing as a company,
Right.
as opposed to looking at this as very transactional. They want to get to the visa. They want the next thing. Like, how do you find people that are passionate about the mission?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, great. That's super helpful.
And it's interesting because I would love those layers and to like dig into those bits
Yeah.
a bit more. And so when
Yeah.
I ask about like sourcing and all of these other things, it's more so like, okay, how could I compensate knowing that I kind of have all of that covered? But this like deep
Yeah.
layer, like I want that, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I totally get it. It's in all of the recruiting activities you do, how do you find that passionate candidate, or create the passionate candidate by giving them the information that makes them go, oh yeah, this is what I want.
This was my
Yeah,
conversation before this
Yeah.
presentation with a hiring manager. Yes.
Oh, wow, that's super
Yeah.
timely. What I'd say is, and I think I didn't for today, but I want to draw a more stark contrast between the type of information in a job description and the type of information that we find moves the needle for candidates that way. It's
Mhm.
super hard to share that in a job description that moves someone, because it's very easy in a job description. Well, one, you have all these other jobs the job description's doing, like what languages do you know, right? And so the job description does a little bit less of the lift there. Yeah. Okay, that's great context. That was super helpful. Any other conversations that folks are having with hiring teams? I think I can prompt this one last time, and I know we're at time, Amir. I used the whole thing, but any last conversations you all are having with your hiring managers that are related to candidate quality, or that some of the topics we talked about today?
I think one thing I would add, just from a tooling perspective that we've seen, this isn't necessarily related to what you're building. Maybe it's like more cautionary because you're probably thinking about it. AI, when it comes to the vetting and screening of candidates, I think from what we've seen, I don't want to speak for everybody. If I had to throw out a random number, I would say about 70 to 80% of the internal leaders that we've spoken to, as in heads of TA, are not loving the idea of having candidates screened, whether it's a resume by AI, right? There's this discomfortability attached to it where like you don't know how it's just a black box and we don't know what's actually happening.
Yeah.
There are a lot of tools proliferating right now, like Gem announced an AI screening tool. We've seen them come through. Syelo Tank, screening tools for resumes. There is a demographic of talent leader that's open to that. I would say 20 to 30% of our community is open to it, but the vast majority of us would rather see tooling that, when it comes to candidate screening and pulling best candidates in front of us, that's less AI driven and more metric driven. So engagement driven may be one of those metrics. Something that we've seen quite a bit at Syelo, and just the general consensus and feedback from the community thus far.
That's incredibly helpful, Amir. Thank you so much for sharing that. Would you mind, maybe just with the reaction of like the thumbs up, do you all from the people here echo that concern on AI for candidate screening? Is that a conversation you've had internally, anyone? Thumbs up, meaning it won't be in the audio. Okay, I see some thumbs. Okay, great. Thank you. That's super helpful. We hear it from the context of people saying this wasn't good enough for us. But it's really interesting to hear it from the philosophical objection, because I think there's a question of like, will it ever be? We're not, we use AI heavily on audio production, as you can imagine, where, leveling and voice and things like that. But we don't we don't use it in that way. Well, I know we're at time. Thank you so much, everyone. I did have a Syelo Tank deal. I forgot to share that here, but I will say there's a Syelo Tank deal of 10% off if you sign up with us in Q3. And thank you, Amir, for putting this together, and so nice to get a chance to talk to you all.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone that attended. Tally, I'll be following up with you today about EOD with some metrics and data on today's conversation, but it's been wonderful. Thank you for coming, and really appreciate you being willing to offer the community a small discount, or a great discount, a small discount, a great discount.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I just
and,
put my email in the chat if anyone wants it. Thanks. Thanks,
awesome.
Amir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a great one, folks.
Have a good one. Happy 4th.
Happy 4th.